Now, in today's video, we are going to be covering in-app purchase that you can integrate into your app so that you can earn more revenue. And this is a topic that has been requested for quite some time. And so this is going to be a fully comprehensive tutorial that's going to cover everything that you need to know to get in-app purchase working with your apps. Now, before we get started, as always, all the apps and all the resources that I discuss in this video will be able to be viewed and or cloned inside of our amazing Patreon community, and you can learn more about it via the first link in the description below the video. Now, before we begin, let's quickly talk about what exactly is in-app purchase, okay? So here I have a sample screen of an app, okay? And so the idea here is that instead of going out and purchasing an app all by itself, right, from the App Store, you're going to be getting an app for free. But if you're interested in getting access to some premium features, to some extra functionality, you'll be able to purchase and kind of unlock those features, that functionality, by doing so right inside the app. And this is arguably very, very popular, right? I'm sure you have apps right now in your phone that might be free to download, but if you want to have access to those premium features, right, to the good stuff, you'll have to purchase them. And I can think of a really good weather app that I have on my phone that gives you kind of this basic weather information, basic weather forecasting. But if you want like the extra stuff, right, maybe that kind of that long range forecasting or radar functionality, radar view, satellite view, what have you, those are premium features, and so you have to purchase, okay? And so this is something that you can have in your apps with FlutterFlow, okay? And this is exactly what we're going to be covering today. And so the flow is relatively simple, okay? So we have a user that loads the app and they want to unlock some of these premium features, this premium functionality. And so instead of seeing this the actual premium feature when they click, in order to to experience this feature, they get a screen that looks something like this paywall, so to speak, and they can choose a plan and hit continue. And because they have their payment information already in their phones, right, as part of their iOS account, Apple account, all of this is going to be very, very seamless, this whole purchase process, okay? And so they connect to something called App Store Connect, that is in the backend. That is something that you configure when you're building iOS apps. And we're going to be primarily focusing on iOS apps in this tutorial, but it's a very, very similar process when it comes to building Android apps, okay? And so in your App Store, you have a list of different products that you have configured. And once again, we're going to be covering that a little bit later in the video. And your app essentially displays these extra products, these these premium products that the person can purchase. And once they see them, they may hit continue and they get access to all of those premium products, right? That, maybe you're gonna have maybe different plans in order to unlock these features. And so you get that, you validate the purchase, right? To make sure that this is legit, and you display to the user. It's very, very simple. Obviously, there's lots of things happening behind the scenes, but you don't really need to concern yourself with all of that, because we're going to be using an app, a service that's going to help us kind of simplify all of this for us. And so you can do all of this from scratch, right? You can do all of this using the available libraries, the available tools. But there are actually services that allow you to do it a lot easier, a lot more hassle-free. And one of these services is called RevenueCat, and which is what we're going to be using in this tutorial. And you can head over to RevenueCat.com. And this video is not sponsored by RevenueCat. They have no idea I'm even making this video. It's just RevenueCat has been recommended by lots of people, both in our private Discord community as well as our amazing Patreons. And so thank you so much for the heads up. Thanks so much for the recommendation. This is actually a really, really great service because it allows you to integrate in-app purchasing very, very easily, right? In a very seamless fashion, okay? And so just so that you have an idea, you can kind of learn more about it, right? So you can click on why RevenueCat and you can learn more uh, why a lot of people use it. But in a nutshell, one of the great things about RevenueCat is it has this unified API. And so whether you want to use iOS, you want to build iOS apps, or you want to build Android apps, or maybe you have both of the apps that kind of do the same thing. Well, with RevenueCat, you don't have to worry about this API, that API. You can just do all the integration with RevenueCat. And this is exactly what we're going to be doing. Instead of integrating specifically with iOS or specifically with Android, we're just going to be integrating with RevenueCat inside of our FlutterFlow app, and RevenueCat is going to integrate with all the other pieces. And so it gives you this kind of abstraction on top of different platforms, which is really, really nice. And that's only scratching the top of the surface because it gives you so many other features. It gives you this unified subscription backend, right? So that you can verify subscriptions because if you're building an iOS app or an Android app, that these backend platforms, they're going to be sending you data. They're going to be telling you, well, this person purchased your product, or this person has renewed, or et cetera, et cetera. And so you need custom backend services to listen for those callbacks, right? To listen for those events. And with RevenueCat, you don't have to do all this, right? It takes care of everything for you. It also gives you analytics, right? Analytics, single source of truth. It has this unified dashboard. You can configure offerings. You can configure entitlements. Really, really great stuff. Okay, so lots of good things. And the best part of it all is if you head over to pricing, you can see that they have something called a Pro plan, which is what I'm using here, that is free up to 2,500 for monthly revenue. Okay, so if you're making less than 2,500 of revenue, right, it's going to be absolutely free. And then after 2,500, it's going to charge you 1%. And so just to get started, and just to make sure that your app is viable, make sure that it's going to get customers and consumers and all of that, you have a big kind of runway, right? You have lots of runway room to kind of see what's happening. And so it's a no-brainer, right? It's a no-brainer to start with it. And once you start making money, you're only paying 1%, and then you have all of these other plans at your disposal. And so I'm not sponsored by RevenueCat or anything like that. But once I saw this plan, I thought this is a great plan. And it just simplifies everything, right? And as developers, we want things to be simplified because we're trying to build a business. We want to make money, right? You don't want to just be developing all the time. You want to actually make money. If you are like a self-employed, you're an independent kind of guy or gal. And so as a result, this is a great tool with a fair pricing and all of that, okay? And so with RevenueCat, you need to understand a couple of things, right? And then we're gonna jump into our RevenueCat and set up everything so all of that works, right? There are primarily three, concepts that you kind of need to understand, okay? We have products, we have entitlements, and we have offerings. Okay, so products is the easiest one to understand, right? Products is basically a link to your actual products that you have configured elsewhere, right? So if you are building an iOS app, you need to configure it in something called App Store Connect. If you're building an Android app, you need to configure it with I think it's called the Google Play development platform or something like that, Play service or something like that. And so you go ahead and configure it here first, and then you simply tell RevenueCat the IDs. So that's out of the way, right? It's kind of this one-to-one relationship. Now, the next thing that you need to understand is entitlements, right? This is purely a RevenueCat concept, okay? So with entitlements, uh, it allows you to group a bunch of products together, okay? And then inside of your app, you can just check if that person, has access to that entitlement, right? So entitlement really tells you that that person, your customer, is entitled to something. And this is really nice because I can have maybe 5 different plans, right? Like a weekly plan, a monthly plan, a yearly plan for the same premium content. And I don't need to check if the user has access to that or that or that or that. All of that is one entitlement, right? So all I need to check is if the user has that entitlement, has access to that entitlement. So really, really nice. And last but not least, we have offerings. Now, offerings is an optional feature. You don't need to use it. But essentially, it allows me to bundle different products and present them to the user. Okay, so you may have like a summer sale of consisting of various products. You may have like a winter sale of consisting of various products. So if it's summer right now, you can just, you can enable that summer sale, that summer offer, and display it. And then once summer ends, you can just disable it, right? You can also, just display, various offerings. You can have offering 1, offering 2, and then just test out different offerings to see which one, gets more interest, gets more money. Okay, so this is optional. This is actually very, very useful entitlements, right? Very, very nice. And then we have products, which is just a one-to-one connection. Because think about it this way, RevenueCat is kind of this middleman, right? We still need to configure everything in these other platforms, App Store Connect and these other places. But after that, right, we are going to be dealing with the RevenueCat APIs exclusively. We're not going to be dealing with Apple APIs or Google APIs, just RevenueCat APIs. And that is why once we've configured it here, that is all you're going to be looking at, right? Okay. So now that you kind of have a general overview of how this works, let's jump into RevenueCat and let me show you the setup and the things that you need to do to kind of, have it all make sense. So here I am at RevenueCat. I'm going to go ahead and log in into my account. And here I am logged into my account. So right away, you see a couple of things happening. This is from me testing my app. And as you can see, we're seeing data, right? We're seeing this trial. We're seeing this, we're seeing things happening, okay? And so before you can even see all of this, right? Because when you initially log in, you're not going to see any of this, right? You need to go into projects and you need to create a new project. So I have a project 1 here. And this is arguably for a specific app that I'm building. This is like a weather app, okay? Just called it a weather app. And so this project has all of these settings here, right? The first one is the app stores, right? So I started with an Android, and unfortunately I couldn't finish it because I don't have access to an Android device. And you need access to an Android device, or you need to have an Android account, an existing active Android account. I believe they're like $25 for lifetime access, but they might, they might put it on pause or kick you out if it's idle, right? If you're not using it, okay? So I don't have an Android device, so I couldn't finish this process, but it's very, very similar to the iOS, which is what we're going to be doing. And so this one app here, I unfortunately have some, issues here because I'm not able to fully launch it to like a closed beta testing group because I need to prove to Google that I have an Android device, okay? And so this is something else that you need to keep in mind, right? To make all of this work, you either need an existing Android account or like that Google Play development account, or you need to have an Apple development account. And so I have an Apple development account, and so I was able to get it to work with the Apple on the Apple side, okay? So if we click over here, you can see that this is my setup for this app here, okay? And so all of this, you can simply click here, and you can click here, App Store, and you can simply set it up, okay? So you can give the app the name, bundle ID. This is very, very important, okay? We've never talked about bundle IDs before, But when we are talking to Apple app stores or Google app stores, we need to make sure that our bundle IDs match. And I'm going to talk more about that in just a little bit. And all of this needs to be connected. And so in order for you to get all of this data here, you need to have an active either, Apple account, in this case, an Apple account or a Google account, right? And so obviously, if you're developing a real app, you're going to be launching it into those onto those platforms, you're going to have one of these accounts. Okay, so this is something to keep in mind. All right, and so obviously, if I click here, I have all of this configured, right? I have all of this configured, and now on my Apple side, I have valid credentials, right? Valid key format, valid permissions, because I have an Apple account, and I was able to get all of this data in there. Okay, now once we add all of these, the next ones are entirely dealing with RevenueCat, right? So we're not going to be talking about these individual platforms. So if I go into general, I can name my project. I have the project ID. I have a bunch of these other settings. API keys, right? So I have these API keys that I can use inside of FlutterFlow when I'm building my app. Okay, I have all of these other things. But the key ones here is these ones: entitlements, products, and offerings, right? So if I go into products here, these are the exact products that I have configured somewhere, okay? Either in App Store Connect or in some other place that we're gonna get to in just a second, okay? So regardless, these products, they need to be set up somewhere. You can't just set them up here in RevenueCat, right? You need to have them already set up somewhere. And then, if I click here, for instance, you see this identifier. This is the exact same identifier that I have in the App Store, right? Okay, so I have it here. Now, this product is part of this entitlement, right? So if I go to this entitlement, I only have one entitlement, okay, because we're only unlocking kind of a one set of features, right? So I may have different products. I can have like a 1 week subscription, a month subscription, a yearly subscription, right? Which is typically what people do. They give you various subscriptions and you can decide how you want to go about it, right? But all of these subscriptions in this case, they're part of this entitlement, right? So if I click on this entitlement, we have these ones too. Now, I don't have Android working, so I'm just going to detach it for now, right? I'm going to hit confirm here. I'm going to detach it. Now I only have iOS, just to keep things simple. And so I only have one product, a yearly subscription, actually with a 1 week free trial that is configured elsewhere. But in this entitlement, I have this one subscription. Now, if I had other subscriptions, maybe a day pass, maybe a week pass, maybe a month pass, all of these would be part of this same entitlement, because in my app later, I can just check, hey, does this user have access to this entitlement, to that premium content? And this is really nice because I don't have to check for all those individual plans, because they're the same plan essentially, it's just different time periods. I don't have to check for this plan, that plan. The user has that plan. I can just check for this entitlement. And then if you go to offerings, which is an optional feature, right? It says here, manage offerings across all apps. Offerings are the selection of products that are offered to a customer on your paywall. Okay, so a paywall is something that a customer sees if they haven't purchased the premium content. Okay, and so I can have a summer sale, and in my summer sale, I can have this yearly package, or maybe a different package, right? A different one, maybe a sale, right? Like 20% off or whatever. Or we can, have a special products that are all part of the same entitlement, right? Like regular products, special sale products, many products, all part of the same entitlement, but they can be part of this one offer. And so if being this is a summer offer, it's on sale during the summer ends, I delete this offer or I disable this offer, and then they never see this offer again. And I don't have to touch my app, right? I don't have to touch my app. All of that is automatic, right? So this is a nice little feature, okay? So when you are configuring your app, okay, there's two things that you need to keep in mind, right? So when you add it here, you need to make sure your bundle ID is exactly the same that you've set up your app. And I'm going to show you that in a second. You need to make sure. You also need to get all of this information. And this is very straightforward, right? So if you click over here, That's going to give you instructions. You need to simply go to App Store Connect with it. If you have an account, you can simply go over there and just follow this. So you'll be able to get all of this information with no problems, right? If you have an active App Store app development account, okay? And the second important thing is that when you're creating your products, you need to make sure that the identifier matches exactly, right? So if I go, let's say I go over here, this one here, this thing needs to match whatever I have in my app store, right? Because it needs to know, RevenueCat needs to know the ID, okay? So that it can get it, it can process it, etc., etc. Because in our apps, we're only interfacing with RevenueCat. So if RevenueCat doesn't have this correctly, it's not going to get the data, right? That's going to give you an error. Okay. So now we have it set up correctly. And so let me go ahead and log into my App Store Connect, where you initially configure your products. And I can show you how it matches up with this RevenueCat configuration here. All right. So here I am inside of App Store Connect. And this is the app that I added into my account, right? This Weather App Pro that I just made up. And if we go over here, we have something called in-app purchases, okay? And so as you can see, I don't have anything here. But if we go into subscriptions, I have this subscription, right? So it starts off with a subscription group. So if we click over here, it's going to open up. And as you can see, we have this one subscription. Annual $39.99 with 1 week free. And we have this product ID, which is exactly the same one that we have here, okay? Because all of your setup happens here, okay? So I can click here and I can take a look, right? So as you can see, it says this is the reference name, annual $39.99, 1 week free. And you can kind of hover over and you can see use an App Store Connect, reports, etc., etc. And so this is where you configure everything, right? We have a subscription duration, which is 1 year. We have availability in all countries, all of this stuff. And another thing that we have here is if you scroll down over here, we have current pricing and we also have an introductory offer. Okay, so it's free for 1 week. And so that is why it's called annual $39.99 because it's $39.99, but it's free for 1 week. Now I can also create other offers, right? So I can click here and I can create another introductory offer, promo offer. I can create offer codes so that my friends can test this for free, etc., etc. I can change the duration that I want. So typically maybe you want to have 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, stuff like that, right? So all of this is set up in App Store Connect. Okay, this is where you have to set it up because Apple is going to be charging your customers, right? So once you do that, you're going to be getting this, you're going to have this product ID over here, right? So if you go back, I have this product ID. And so this product ID needs to match up with what you have here, right? If you click over here, you have this identifier here, right? So if I click on edit, I can't edit it anymore, but I can create a new one, right? So if I click here, I can create a new one, App Store, and this is what I have. So I can have this here. I already have this. And so it says here, this is the product ID or SKU defined via App Store Connect. Okay, so very, very important. It needs to match up correctly, okay? So once you've set up your RevenueCat, because at this point we have it configured, your RevenueCat is ready to be, to serve as an API for your app here, okay? So this is the first half of the tutorial, getting all of this configured, getting all of this set up. Because later on, once you've set up everything, once you've set up things in App Store Connect, you've set up stuff here, you're going to be using an API key. So that is all you're going to be using. And you're also going to be using the name of the entitlement. We have it Pro. That's it. That's all you need to know at this point, which is really nice because it simplifies a lot. So at this point, now let's go ahead and jump to part 2, okay? So in part 2, we are going to be building an app, okay? So I went ahead and built an app using my custom widget that is configured to work with RevenueCat, right? So it's a very, very simple app. And so if we go over here, we have this custom widget, okay? And this custom widget has two parameters that you need to pass, an API key and the entitlement name. And once you pass these, it will show the user the prices, if they don't have access to that. But if they have access to that, it's going to show them the actual content. It's going to show them something else, right? So we have this here, and I have specified my API key. I have specified my entitled name. Now, you can't really test it from FlutterFlow, right? You need to test it via a simulator, okay? So pay very, very close attention to the following steps. And before you even download this app, you need to make sure that you bundle ID set up correctly, right? So if you go over here and you go into app details over here, you're going to have this package name. Now, this package name needs to match up with everything else, okay? So if we go into App Store Connect, I have my app here, and let me go ahead and back. Let me get out. So if I go to app information, I would have this package. You see, it says here, this is the package name, right? And this is when you create the app, you give it a package name, package ID. So, well, you give it a name, but also the package ID. So it says here, com.jamesnocode.weather app. So it's kind of in reverse, right? You would have jamesnocode.com, but it goes in reverse. So, you know, you can call it whatever you want, right? Because I'm James No Code and I own this domain. This is what I do, right? I say com.jamesnocode.weather app. You know, you can call it whatever you want. It does not need to exist. This domain does not need to exist. But you need to make sure that this is correct here, okay? And so because this weather app has this bundle ID, that's what we need to have connected in our app. All right, that is what we need to do. So if we go over here, this thing needs to match. Why does it need to match? Well, because when you run this app, RevenueCat is going to be connecting to App Store Connect, but it doesn't know which app to look at, right? And so you need to make sure that this is set correctly. Okay, so we have our app over here. We have everything configured. It looks really good. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to download this app onto my local computer, and we're going to run it in a simulator or even in a real device. If you actually have a real device, you can do that as well. And so I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go ahead and copy this command line over here. Okay, this is very, very important. Now, you do have an option to use FlutterFlow local run, but you can't do that, right? Because you need to make a couple of other changes once you download this app, okay? So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go ahead and download this app. Now, I already did that, right? So I already have this app over here downloaded, okay? And so what I can do now is I can run code with a period, and that's going to go ahead and open this app in an editor of choice, and I'm using Visual Studio Code. Now, when I open my app in Visual Studio Code, I see this whole app, and this is something that we've done before many, many times. Now, I can run this app from here because I do have the simulator here, right? So take a look. I have my simulators. I even have my own device here, so I can potentially run it on a physical device. I have an iOS simulator. I have my Android simulators as well. And this is what you would typically do. But in our situation, we can't run it directly just yet. There's a couple of other steps that we need to do before we can run it, okay? And so when you download your Flutter code, right, your Flutter project, which is what FlutterFlow generates, it's actually multiple projects for various platforms. So instead of me going out and building an iOS app with Xcode and Swift and coding and all that, right? We're no code, right? We don't need to write code, right? We have FlutterFlow for that. And so as part of our FlutterFlow project, Flutter project, if you will, we have various directories here. So we have Android, we have iOS, we also have web. If we enable desktop or Windows or other things, we would have had more platforms that we can run it on. And so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this iOS directory here, and I'm going to go ahead and open this project in Xcode because this project is pretty much done, right? We don't need to write it. It's built for us, but there's instead of running it right away, there's still a couple of things that we need to do to make it work. Okay, so I'm going to go into iOS and I'm going to type open and iOS/runner this workspace. Okay, because now we have a workspace that was generated by by the whole Flutter process, right? We have an entire iOS Apple project that has been built for us, right? So this open is going to open it automatically in Xcode. So before you run this command, make sure you download Xcode, okay? And obviously Xcode only runs on Mac machines. And so if you're developing for iOS, you need to have a Mac machine, right? And when I run it, Xcode opens up and now I'm seeing my project here. This is my iOS app, okay? And I can also target it for iPad. I could target it on a Mac. I can also target it on Apple Vision. And the reason that we need to have this extra step, meaning that we need to open up in Xcode, is because we need to do a couple of extra things, okay? The first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure this bundle identifier is set up correctly. Now, I know you can do that in FlutterFlow, but there's still another thing that we need to do that you can only do in Xcode. Okay, so just while you have it open, take a look at this bundle identifier here. Okay, so if you click over here, you need to make sure that this matches the app that you have. Okay, super, super important. The next thing that we need to do is we need to figure out how we're going to be testing our app. Because when it comes to testing your app, there are 3 ways that you can go about it. Okay, and this is very, very important to understand. The first one is store kit testing. Okay, this is where you can test the entire app right inside of Xcode without needing to configure all your subscriptions, all your products in App Store Connect. So your app is not even going to connect to App Store Connect. You can simply configure everything inside of StoreKit and see if it works as expected. This is what we're going to be doing right now. Okay. The second way to test is by using App Store Connect, but with Sandbox account. Okay. So what is a Sandbox account? Well, this is a real way to test your app, but instead of logging in as myself, as a real user, because obviously if there's a $39.99 yearly plan, and I test it out, I'm gonna need to pay $39.99. So in this case, I can use something called a sandbox, which is essentially a real environment but with fake users. Okay, and you can do this as well. And last but not least, you have the production version, right? So this is where you're using the production environment and you're using App Store Connect. The difference between these two is the user that's being logged in, right? I can create a fake user that I can log in into the app that's not going to charge any credit cards. Or I can log in as myself as a real user and that's going to charge my credit card. Another thing that you can do over here is that you can create coupons. And so you can test, your app using this method with coupons, which is going to give you this, access to premium content for free. And so this is how you can give a couple of coupons to your friends and they are not going to be charged. Okay. Now, for this case, we're going to be using StoreKit testing because that is the simplest and the easiest. And what this means is that you don't need to go out to App Store Connect and configure all your apps over there. You don't need to do that because everything is going to be in the StoreKit, okay? But there's a couple of things that we need to do. And this is why it's very important that you pay close attention to the things that I'm going to be talking about here, okay? The first thing that you need to make sure is that your app is going to be signed. So it says here, signing for Runner requires a development team. So you need to come in here and you need to select one of your accounts here. So I have selected one of my accounts that I have an App Store Connect that to sign this app. And this is regardless how you're going to be testing. Okay, if you need to run it from Xcode, it needs to be signed. We also have this bundle identifier that's not matching to anything in App Store Connect, but this is absolutely fine because we're going to be using this first method, the StoreKit testing. Okay, so now I have this fixed here. That's the first thing I need to do. The second thing that I need to do is I need to create this StoreKit testing file where I can create those products in that file directly without needing to go to App Store Connect. And so I'm going to go into File, New. I'm going to say file from template, and I'm going to search for store, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go into next, and I'm going to give this file a name. Okay, you want to uncheck this here. Okay, you want to make sure this is unchecked. And so I'm going to say this is Weather App Pro. Okay, I'm going to hit next. And here I'm just going to leave it on default, but I want to make sure that I have this checked here. I'm going to click on create. And now I have a store kit testing file created, right? So now I can create all my in-app purchases or subscriptions right inside of Xcode, right, as a file, which is going to be perfect for testing. So we're going to click here, and we're going to do an auto renewable subscription, right? We're going to click here, create a new group. And remember, this is exactly what we needed to do in App Store Connect, or rather what I needed to do, right? So I need to create a new group. I'm just going to say group 1. I'm going to hit next. And now I need the reference name and the product ID. Okay, so what is the reference name? Well, the reference name is Weather at a yearly subscription and something like this, $39.99. And the product ID, well, the product ID is that ID. So if I go into RevenueCat over here and I go into products, well, it needs to match this one right here, this identifier, right? Product ID, product identifier, same thing. Back into Xcode, and I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to hit done. And now I can configure it here, right? So let's see. Price is going to be $39.99. Subscription duration is going to be 1 year. These are the exact same settings that you will have to configure in App Store Connect. But this is so much simpler, so much easier. Let's do an offer type free for 1 week. Okay, so it has a free 1 week, and then you get charged. Okay. And you also have offer codes, promo offers, win back, all of these things. You don't need to worry about all of this. That is all that you need to do, right, to get it testing. And so the next thing that you need to do is you need to click here and you need to edit your scheme. And inside here, with run being selected, which is what it's going to be set for, you want to go to StoreKit config and you want to make sure you select the StoreKit file so that your app knows that you have a StoreKit config testing file here. We're going to hit close and we're done. So now if we are doing RevenueCat in-app purchasing and in-app stuff, it's not going to go to App Store Connect. It's going to go to this file, which has all our stuff here, which is a lot simpler in my opinion than going, having all of this in App Store Connect. Because here we don't really care about the ID, right? So if I go over here, I don't really care about this, right? I don't really care about the bundle ID. I can set it to whatever I want because we're not connecting to App Store Connect. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to select how we want to run this app. So if you click over here, I have all of my devices, and this dark blue, these are real devices, right? So I have my iPhone 15 Pro Max, but I also have the simulator, right? I'm going to run it on a simulator instead of on a real device. And I'm going to hit this. That's going to run it. So now it's building, and it's going to build our FlutterFlow app, as an iOS app this time, right? So it's building it, and let's see how it looks. Okay, build succeeded. Let's go ahead and open our simulator. So our simulator is booting up. That's our simulator right here. Let's go ahead and see. So it's installing the app. That's our app right there, and it's loading the app. Okay, let's see what's happening. And there's the app. This is the app that we built in FlutterFlow, right? It's telling me to upgrade to premium, right? This is the paywall. And here it's displaying the price, right, on the button. So I'm going to hit here. I press the button, and now we see this familiar dialog box, right? Now it says Xcode. That is because we're using the StoreKit testing. We're not using App Store Connect, right? This is fine. So it's telling us Weather App yearly subscription, $39.99, and we have that 1 week free trial. Remember, that is what we configured here in this file, right? So if we go over here, come over here, you see offer type free, duration 1 week, right? And here you can see all the communication, all the logs, right? So it says purchasing product from package in offering summer sale. This is RevenueKit logging, right? It's telling us everything looks good. So now I'm going to hit subscribe, and it's done. You're all set. Your purchase was successful. Environment Xcode. This is obviously just for testing, right? You're not going to see this if you were using App Store Connect without this file there. I'm going to hit OK, And welcome to premium content. Okay, so now we are displaying the widget with the premium content. How cool is this? How nice is this? And here you can kind of read all this information, kind of what's happening in the background, right? This is my bundle ID, everything, everything that I purchased. And now let's go ahead and jump into RevenueCat and see what RevenueCat is showing. We are back in RevenueCat. And let's go ahead and go to overview and let's see what happens. So now you see this last transaction. We are on trial a minute ago and expiration is in 7 days. So this trial is going to expire in 7 days, right? So I can click over here and I can see what's happening, right? So total spent is 0. This is when last opened, user since, and you're getting some really awesome, data, right? So first seen using the app, last opened the app, started the trial, Flutter SDK version, all of these things, right? And you see it, right? You see it right here. This is Sandbox data, right? Because if you click over here, this is only Sandbox data, right? This customer has Sandbox purchasing. So if we click over here, Sandbox data. If we go into overview, I have 3 active trials. This is just for testing, and because these are the trials here. So in fact, if I can click over here, I can delete these other trials. I can delete these customers. So let's say I delete, the previous customers. I delete them, and I go back to overview, and I have 2. So let's go ahead and delete the other one. 2 days ago, from me testing, I was actually giving a demo to my amazing Patreon subscribers. Okay, so they got actually a demo of all of this before the public, right? Because they were asking for this feature, and it works really nicely, right? So now if I refresh it, I only have 1 user. This is my, this is me right now. So if I click over here, I can delete myself, right? I can delete myself, and that's going to go ahead and delete the account. But before I do that, let's go ahead and take a look what's happening. So I have this entitlement here, right? I'm entitled to all the premium features, but in this case, it's a yearly subscription, right? My current offering, summer sale, right? So maybe I'm running like a special summer promotion, 20% off for the weather app. This is the current offering, right? So I can click here, I could go back to the setup and all of this, etc., etc. And I can even delete this customer, right? I can delete this account. So let's go ahead and delete this account, see what happens. You can go ahead and delete this account. And so now if I go into overview and refresh this, guess what? No active trials, nothing is happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild the app. I'm going to rerun it, build succeeded. And now it's telling me to upgrade to premium, right? So I can click here, but now it's telling me you're currently subscribed to this, right? Because I never unsubscribe, right? So in this case, it's telling me that your 1-year subscription renews on September 10th, which is exactly a week from today. And I can go into manage, and guess what? I have this really nice manage screen. I can cancel this subscription, confirm. And now I've canceled it. I can go out and I've canceled it. And now if I go back to RevenueCat, we're going to see that the user has canceled their subscription. Come back over here, reload this. We have this one. And as you can see, it says here, opted out of renewal. Okay, so we are still on the trial, right? Because we canceled it, but we're still part of the trial. That's how it works, right? Our trial is going to expire, but we're not going to get renewed for the yearly subscription. So this is a really nice feature because let's say I sign up for something, I don't care about paying. I just want to use the trial thing. Many of us, sometimes feel this way. We just want to get the free content, but we don't want to pay. All right. So in this case, you can cancel. That's kind of how iOS works. In-app purchasing works and all of that. So now I will never get renewed. I'm just going to get the trial is going to expire and that's it. And in the meantime, I have access to all the features. And remember, we are using this store kit testing, right? So if you come over here, if you go into edit, if you decide that, you want to use the real thing, App Store Connect, just how I showed you previously, you want to, deselect that and you want to hit close. Okay. And this part, this weather kit testing and all of that, and especially signing your app with all the permissions, all the stuff that you can get from App Store Connect, and this is why you need to be using Xcode for that final step, that final couple of steps. And additionally, it's really nice, this store kit, I think it was released like fairly recently, maybe a couple of years ago. It hasn't been around since like day one or anything like that. This is a great feature because I can test everything inside of Xcode without going to App Store Connect and doing it all over there, right? With the Sandbox accounts and all of that. I can just do it here. Okay? And so afterwards, if when you are ready to migrate from this StoreKit testing to actual App Store Connect, right? You want to go over here and you want to go into users and access, okay? And what you want to do is you want to click on Sandbox. And here you can create accounts. You can create test accounts that you can log in as when you are testing your in-app purchases without using the StoreKit testing by using App Store Connect. So when you remove the configuration, you create all of these subscriptions and in-app products in your app here, right over here. You may want to create test accounts, and then you can simply log in as these users and see the whole flow, right? And that's going to work exactly how it would work in production. Okay, so that is the next phase, right? So how we talked about, we talked about this. This is where you're going to be using those Sandbox accounts, and production works exactly the same as Sandbox, except these are real users, right? So make sure that you're careful, right? If you're testing something that costs $39.99, well, you're going to be charged $39.99. You can test something for like 99 cents maybe. That is something that I used to do, or you can just create codes, coupon codes, and just use those to get free access. Okay, and so that is how you do in-app purchase with RevenueCat. Okay, and you can do this with FlutterFlow if you follow all of those steps. And I don't think it's very complicated, right? So just like how I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I'm going to be making this in-app purchase widget available to my amazing Patreon subscribers. This is this in-app purchase widget. You just need to specify your API key, your entitlement name, and it's going to list the products and do all of that. And then you can have a custom action that redirects the user to another page, etc., etc., or maybe display something custom in there as well. Okay. So if you're serious about like getting all of this to work and kind of testing it out, because there's a lot of steps, make sure you join our amazing Patreon community so that you can get access to this. You can download the code, you can test it out, you can discuss with other members, because we have some amazing, incredible members on there that have been wanting a tutorial on this feature for quite some time. So I finally got around, and finally I was able to do it. I was giving them updates inside of our Patreon community, how things were progressing, because this is a rather complex issue. It's a rather complex topic, but fortunately I was able to kind of get it working, right? But there's still a lot of things to do. And so if you guys want to see a complex app that uses this, right, a real app, maybe a weather app, leave a like on the video, leave a comment below, or let me know inside of our Patreon community. And just a quick thing, in case you're not aware, when you join our Patreon community, you're not only going to get access to this app, you're going to get access to all my apps. You're going to get access to extra content, such as my weekly podcast, where every Sunday I talk about things that I was working on, things that I'm planning to work on, answering questions. It's kind of this behind the scenes kind of things that are happening. And a lot of people really, really like it. Okay, so if you want to get access to that, want to get access to this app, all my other apps, make sure you learn about our amazing Patreon community and become a member. And also check out my trainings, my Mastering FlutterFlow, Mastering Supabase, if you really, really want to master our how to build FlutterFlow apps. You can see links to them below the video.